Hey, scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we talk about stuff happening in the precious metals market, industrial metals market, and we also take a look at all the cool stuff that's happening in our industry. It is great to be here, and so far it looks like EVMux is doing its thing. That's the software that I use for my live streaming, and you'll recall last week we had some challenges. Oh man. So let's see. What do we got going on here? We've got JR Cat is in the house. Great to have you here. Mike's Meltdown is here. Scrapping Irish is in the house. Roger at CU Scrapping is here. Sixth Street Garage is in the house. Great to have everybody here. Got a little chit chat going on. Everybody saying hello to everybody. That's awesome. We have some really cool stuff to talk about this week, so I'm really looking forward to getting into things. And I'm repeating gold and silver from last week, and I'm doing that because we had some major changes to. I'm repeating gold and copper, so I'm repeating gold and copper from last week because we had some major changes to what's going on in copper. And I really wanted to address those changes because they have huge impacts for all of us, and it's important that we talk about what's going on there. So, without any further ado, then let's just get right into it. We're going to do that and that and then this. I got to set up the screen here. So there we go. Those of you remember that I use AppMex as one of my tools. I am not sponsored by AppMex. I don't get any money from them, but it is a service that I have used when I buy and sell my physical gold and silver. I always recommend that people have physical gold and silver as part of their portfolio or their stack. I do not recommend paper gold and silver products, those certificates that say that you own a certain amount, because unless you actually have your hands on it, you don't own it. With AppMex and other groups like JM Bullion and such, you can actually buy the rounds and the coins and bars, and you have it in your possession. When you need to do something with it, then you can. So AppMex is a great place to buy and sell. I've never had any trouble whatsoever buying and selling. All right, so we're looking at the gold price here, $3,378.50. This is the 1 week chart. And so we've got some interesting signals going on here. We had a plateau that dropped, and then we had this slightly climbing It's not a plateau because it's not flat, but it's not a real climb. It's a slow climb. We drop again. We start pulling out. We get a plateau, and then we get this sharp climb. So these are signals that investors are just not sure what's going on. Now, the numbers are not huge. So you can see that the bottom of this is down here in what the 32 something, 3250-ish. And then we get up to 3378 where we're at now. So not huge variations in the prices, but enough that it says that there are things going on. All right, let's take a look here. We're going to go out to a month. If I push the right button, we will go out to a month. So if we look at it from the month, we see that we had a nice climb here for a while, and then it dropped off again, and then it started climbing up again. Let's go right over to a year. And when we look at the year here, we can see that we've had a real nice climb in gold. We're up 37.96%. I tell you what, if you had invested in gold a year ago, you would be really, really happy. Really, really happy. Now we've had some variations in here. I mean, we've had some dips and climbs that, would have given folks a little bit of nervousness, but overall, this is a real nice climb for gold. And why is that important to us? Well, let's pop over to the trading economics chart real quick because that one gives us even better look at what's going on. So this is the 1 year chart, and the candlesticks that we'll look at will be 1 day's worth of candlesticks. And even without looking at the candlesticks, what I want to draw your attention to is this area right here. You can see we have a certain amount of variability around a certain price level. That is important to us as scrappers because that kind of signal, especially a prolonged signal like that, allows folks like boardsort.com and our scrap yards to keep their prices pretty steady. They aren't going to necessarily react to all of this short term up and down stuff that you see going on in here because they know better than to react to all these short term variances. All right. But they're going to look at this signal running across here. It's a good, strong, steady signal. And that's going to tell them, let's just hold what we've got. Maybe depending upon how their profits are doing, they may tweak it up or down a little bit. But for the most part, they're just going to hold what they got because this is a good. It's not steady state. There's a lot of variability, but it's steady state around. It's a lot of variability around a steady state. So that's good for the scrap yards to hold their prices where they're at, which is great for us because that means we can accumulate more gold-bearing material with confidence, or at least a little less concern that it could drop off in a week or so and we'd be out of luck. If we pop over to the candlestick charts real quick here, what we can see, I'm going to zoom in on just this part of the chart here and open that up. And what you can see is these candlesticks, once we've climbed up here, these candlesticks aren't huge. You've got green and reds that are about the same size going up and down and up and down. And it's that kind of variability that causes scrap yards to say, all right, I'm not going to react to these short-term changes here. And then we'll go back to the line chart and we'll see, what did they say about spot gold prices rose 2% to surpass $33.50 per ounce on Friday as the latest U.S. jobs report added to evidence of a cooling labor market and strengthened expectations of a Federal Reserve rate cut in September. U.S. economy added just 73,000 jobs in July, falling short of the 100,000 that was projected. May and June job numbers were also revised sharply lower. That happens, they come out with the initial jobs report, but then as they go back and get more data from that period and they have the ability to verify and check the numbers, they almost always adjust the numbers up and down after the months have passed as they go back and look at the numbers. Don't get alarmed by that. That happens all the time. In response, the markets are now pricing a 75% probability of a September rate cut. And that's up sharply from a 45%. That means you're not going to get a rate cut of 75%. It means that they've got a 75% probability that there's going to be a rate cut. And then we have the data followed stronger expected PC inflation numbers. Okay. So essentially, what's interesting is they don't talk a lot about investor uncertainty here. Although, the tariffs and the wars going on, certainly that's a background level of uncertainty that we have to pay attention to. In this case, gold is sort of holding or moving a little bit based on what's happening with the U.S. economy. All right, let's take a look at the forecast for gold real quick. And when we do that, I want to draw your attention to this part of the chart right here, where we see gold going over 3,500 an ounce. And they're saying that It's expected to trade at 34.10.59 by the end of this quarter, and in the next 12 months, 35.58. So again, that's good news for us, because us being the scrapping and recycling market, because what that tells us is that um, we can accumulate material, we can sell that material, and we should continue to at least get what we're getting now, but maybe even more moving forward. It's not like it's a huge spike coming. So, if this gray line was steeper, then you might say to yourself, well, I'm going to hold my material and I'm going to try to, get it when the rates come up higher, because it's going to come up faster. I can hold that material for a little while and try to get more money. It's not dropping, which would scare folks into saying, "Oh my God, I got to sell my stuff because I'm losing money." But this is a nice gradual upward slope. It's enough that it says I'm confident that I'm going to get at least what I'm getting now, maybe a little bit more. My yard isn't going to have to react negatively from my perspective on the price, so I can keep into a steady state progress of pumping out my scrap material in the quantities that are working for me, whether it's a bin or a Gaylord pallet size, whatever works for you based on how your material is coming in. So those are real good signs for us in the gold market. We're looking really good with gold right now, and that's the really good news for us in the scrapping world. All right, let's see what kind of comments you all have had when we talking about gold. I'm going to come back. Let's see. Andy Paz. Andy Paz Dudu is here. Welcome, Andy. Electronic Scrapper. Folks saying hi. Mike's Meltdown is saying even gold and silver IRAs are kind of risky since someone else holds their commodity. Yes, I agree. Mike, 100%. We've got some comments on copper from Canadian Grower 420. We're going to talk about copper in a minute. Hang on to your copper thoughts. We're going to get there. But it's nice to have Canadian Grower 420 in the house. Richard Hulbert's in the house. Welcome, Richard. Mr. Matthews is in the house. Great to have you here, sir. Well, HH Recycling, you are welcome, man. I am glad to help you slow down your heart, sort of relax a little bit, settle into your recovery phase. Hopefully, you're having some good hydration to get some fluid back into your body there. And Patrick Williams joined us. Great to have you here, Patrick. All righty, so let's see. Now, I need to do something here for just a second. I'm going to let you look at this chart for a minute. I had to get my coffee. It was still sitting on the warmer. My throat was getting a little scratchy. All righty. Well, that was that was a fun discussion on gold. Our next segment is our safety segment, and as always, this came because of an experience that I had during the week. Now, a lot of you know that over a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, Mrs. Shark was in an automobile accident. She's fine. She wasn't hurt at all. But her insurance company decided that they were going to make her car a total write-off. Now, I tell you what, this was just such a goat rope of an insurance experience. just unbelievable. Delay after delay, mixed signals, bad information. Um, the insurance company that I have, it's a company called USAA, and they used to be a very good insurance company. Back when I joined as a midshipman, back in the late 1970s, they only provided banking and insurance services to officers. Over time, they grew to include senior enlisted and then all enlisted, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, I applaud the service for all of our military members, and then they even expanded to, the if you knew someone who was a military member at some point. I mean, they basically lost their way. They became less about ensuring, taking care of the service members they were insuring, and just becoming an insurance company, and their services just have been terrible. But the issue that this brought to me was we had to replace Mrs. Shark's car. And so every time you go in to look at a car, whether it's a new car or a used car, of course, they're going to run a credit report on you. And I kept getting these dings from LifeLock telling me that somebody was running a credit report. So that brought up the whole point to me to talk about online safety. We don't think about online safety a lot. Some people say, oh, it's too hard, I don't want to think about it. Some people get nervous about it. But there are a couple of things we can do to make ourselves more safe when we're online. Clearly, the first thing you want to have is some sort of antivirus protection on your computer, any device that is going to be going online, so that you're not picking up those nasty viruses and people can't hack into your accounts and things of that nature. There's plenty of them out there that are free. Some of them have paid versions that are arguably better than the free versions, sometimes not. I would suggest that you check out an organization like Consumer Reports, get an unbiased grading that's scientifically based on how well a service provides. So, for instance, there's an antivirus program out there called ESET, and they do a really good job, and they're rated pretty high. I'm not going to recommend one to you because these things can be so dependent on your particulars. That would be silly for me to recommend one antivirus over another. But you don't have to pay for a good antivirus. Many of them are free. And if you do get paid versions, then you want to at least make sure you're getting something worth the money that you're paying. Now, LifeLock is different than an antivirus program. LifeLock, which happens to be by Norton, and no, I'm not promoting it. I'm not getting any money from them. It's just something that I use. What they actually do is they actually monitor your accounts, your financial accounts. And then if they see activity, then they'll let you know that there's been some activity on your account. And then they periodically do a credit rating for you so that you can see how you're doing with your credit ratings. And of course, that can be important because a good high credit score allows you to get better interest rates when you want to have loans. But it's also important that you get alerted anytime a bank or a credit type creditor is looking at your credit, because if you didn't initiate something that would otherwise cause a credit company to report on you, then there may be something bad going on. So that's why something like a LifeLock kind of tool is useful to you. It was interesting to me because, I hadn't heard anything from LifeLock for months because I haven't been doing anything major financial wise since, basically we bought the house. And then all of a sudden I started getting all these hits. And of course it was the car companies that we had been going to that were doing credit checks on me. So it's definitely something that you want to think about. So I guess in a way we had two kind of safety lessons here. One is your insurance company, and two is your online safety. And it's there's pros and cons, of course, to anything that you're going to do with whether it's your insurance or your online safety, but you definitely want to pay attention to both because there's a lot going on there. So let's see. Now, JR Cat is saying that this is why he doesn't do online banking. I wouldn't, as long as you have a decent antivirus and malware protection on your computer, most banks have very good safety tools. USAA, NFCU, the banks that I do a lot of work with, once I have a password, and then I have two-factor authentication. You always want to make sure you have two-factor authentication. And even with the two-factor authentication, sometimes they'll ask me to verify things. So the banks are pretty careful. I wouldn't be too afraid about online banking. Just be careful with it, of course. And be careful where you're putting your credit card out. I mean, if there's anybody out there that hasn't had a credit card stolen or hacked, then you're definitely in the minority. And fortunately, whether it's been Navy Federal Credit Union or USAA, when my credit cards have been hacked or stolen, they alerted me. We shut it down right away. I got refunded money, and I had a new card in the mail, sometimes the next day. So you can't walk away from online banking. There's a lot that you just have to do, but you do have to be very careful with it. Let's see. Mr. Matthews says new viruses don't work on Windows XP. There's plenty of them out there that'll get you there, Ian. So just because you're living in the dark ages doesn't mean they're not going to come get you, buddy. But I do enjoy the sense of humor. Richard Holbert says that he uses USAA and he's been happy so far. I got to admit, Richard, I was okay with USAA, except I had two recent claims that both of them were just absolute disasters, just total disasters. And it's really, really soured my opinion on USAA between the level of incompetence and non-concern and just the failure of the company to do what an insurance company should do. As far as windshield goes, that is very state by state dependent. Some states, they require that the insurance companies replace your windshield at no charge. So that's not USAA that's doing that. That's your state has told the insurance companies you will do this. That's so for instance, in Florida, when I was down in Florida, if you had a crack, or if you had a chip that was bigger than a U.S. quarter, or a crack that extended beyond that, then they would replace the windshield at no charge. And it was basically, one of the windshield companies shows up and a Safe Light or something like that shows up, and they replace the windshield and they charge it to USAA, and your rates don't change. Let's see. HH Recycling, he has a thing called Borrowwell that does that. They're just trying to get me to accept credit card. You got to be careful of that too. Absolutely. There are some of these folks that's just, they're monitoring your credit as a way to get you to get more credit. So you got to be careful with that. I actually thought it was funny when I looked at my credit rating with that, because of this car for Mrs. Shark, and I was looking at my credit rating, and one of the things that they dinged me on was that I didn't have enough credit. It's like, you mean because I'm very careful to only have a certain amount of credit, like a mortgage and a couple of credit cards, I'm considered more of a credit risk. I just thought that was kind of funny. Oh, let's see. Yeah, those data breaches, those can be harsh, and I have been notified again through LifeLock of data breaches here and there. So those things, no matter how good we are and how much we try, um, sometimes you can't help it because somebody who has your data gets breached. So those can be really rough. Anfield Road Layout is in the house. Welcome, Anfield. Great to have you here. Let's see. Anybody else got anything for insurance or online? Everyday Solers is in the house. Welcome, Everyday Solers. Someone bought $48 worth of Whataburger on my card. The closest Whataburger is thousands of miles away. And I bought gasoline here 3 hours earlier. Sounds like your card was skimmed. That is a very common thing that happens with our credit cards. Whenever I go to a gas station now, one of the first things I do is take hold of the credit card reader, just give it a tug and a shake, and see if it's loose at all. Then I get nervous because folks will go put skimmers on the credit card readers so that when you insert your card, it can get all your data. So that's a really big problem. You always got to watch out for those skimmers. And then I also have my wallet is a metal weave, so that it guards against someone walking close by and having a scanner try to read my card as well. So that's another thing that you can do to help protect yourself there. What other comments do we have on? Ouch. They scammed my wife. Got access to her phone, transferred it to a different account, and used it to access all of her financial info. Oh, yeah, man. That would be just terrible. Yeah, that would be really rough. It's one of the reasons why my wife and I keep her accounts, my accounts, and our accounts. One, it's so that we don't give away what we're buying each other for birthdays and holidays. But the other thing is that if one of us gets hacked, we haven't lost everything. So it's definitely that's so, and they're getting so good at these scams anymore these days. I mean, it's just amazing how much they can make something look like it's a real request from Apple. Or, I mean, you really got to be careful. I check everything now. Anything that comes up that's asking for any kind of financial data at all, and I'm checking it. Anything that says, oh, you missed this payment, or thank you for that payment, or we appreciate you purchasing whatever. I check them all because I just don't trust any of them anymore. That actually got me in a little bit of trouble with Best Buy, because I thought I was getting scammed by somebody, and my Best Buy account, my credit card had been stolen. I went in and I changed my credit cards all over the place. I thought I had updated my account on Best Buy. What I didn't realize was that just because you give Best Buy a new credit card number, it doesn't mean that your service policy will automatically rebill that new card. And so what happened was they tried to rebill my service policy, which is the policy that covers all of the stuff that I buy from them, and they couldn't do it. And I kept getting these warnings, and I thought, well, I already gave them a credit card, so this must be a scam. No, it was real. So I'm still going back and forth with Best Buy on this, trying to get them to reinstate all of those accounts. Because as I told them, I said, look, I get 2 or 3 emails a day from you that are junk, a waste of time. The one email that I should have gotten that was important got buried in the mix of all the other stupid stuff that I get from you. And so we'll see how that one plays out. All right, well, let's get on to what's really the main issue for today. And this one is going to hit home for a lot of us, and it's copper. Okay, I mean, we're right over here. We're on trading economics. We're looking at the chart here, and you can see this big drop that happened right here. So here, let's bring up the candlesticks because it's so glaring when you see this. And I'm going to zoom in because it makes it even more apparent. You can see on this red candlestick, which was on July 30th, which was the day that the Trump tariffs on copper were clarified, so everybody knew what was happening. Copper plummeted from it started the day at 5.64. It closed at what's that, 4.61, and you can see it kind of got up over 5.75. That was the high for the day, and the low for the day was somewhere in here, 4.4. But with candlesticks charts, the bottom here is in a red chart is where they closed. So what happened? What was it about the tariffs that had such a huge impact on the copper market? We've been saying for a few weeks now that the Trump administration was looking at copper, and in order to prepare for that, a lot of companies were bringing in a lot of copper. They were trying to get ahead of tariffs because what folks thought was going to happen was that all copper would be tariffed, including ore and refined products. So they were bringing in a lot of copper. They were just pushing copper at the United States. So then the Trump tariffs get announced, and the details reveal that they are not going to put a tariff on the ore or the concentrates or the cathodes. What they are going to do is a tariff on copper, on the copper products, so the pipe and the wire and the sheet. And so now you have a whole bunch of copper ore and cathodes and that kind of material that has been pumped in the United States. And then they announced that they're not going to put a tariff on that. They're going to put a tariff on the goods, the pipe and the wire and stuff. So nobody was expecting that. It threw everything into a mess because, especially here in the United States, now you had way more pure, I don't want to say pure, but the basic copper material that's needed to make things. You got a whole bunch of that in the U.S. And the tariff is going to affect the stuff that's made out of it. So it throws everything in a tizzy. You had, depending upon when you looked at the numbers and when the numbers were calculated, anywhere from 17 to 22% drop in copper, and that's that was tough. The other thing that's in the language that is going to be interesting is that it also says that 25% of high quality copper scrap must be sold domestically here in the United States. And the reason, of course, is to boost copper refining here in the U.S. And then somewhere I read that will take effect somewhere around 2027. But I mean, there was no definition of what is high quality copper scrap. They didn't clarify that. At some point that probably will get clarified. And I'm sure there's a lot of organizations out there right now, like, the various scrap organizations that are pushing hard to do what's best for their clients. But the thing that's interesting is that here in the United States, we already consume about 40% of the copper scrap that we generate, and then we export the rest of it. So it's what the impacts are going to be is still kind of a head scratcher. And a lot of folks they're not sure why this was the way the tariffs came out, because they're not doing anything to help the miners. In fact, U.S. mining stocks went down. Let's see, two companies. Where are they? No. Southern Copper went down by 7%. Freeport McMoran went down by 11%. Um, and there are folks out there that are saying that copper, as this settles out and people figure out what's going on here, we could see copper go all the way down to $3 a pound. I'm not saying that's what the forecast is, but there are folks out there that saying don't be surprised if it drops to $3 a pound. So the tariff is kind of a weird tariff. It's like in the beginning, what the administration was saying was that they were investigating copper from the perspective of U.S. security and making sure that we could be self-sufficient. But then the tariff is on the semi-finished goods and things like pipe and wire and stuff, and not on the ore and the materials that in mining and refining that are the backbone of being self-sufficient. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But what does it mean for us? Well, what it means for us in the recycling world is, yeah, we got hosed. I mean, anybody that was getting ready to, take their copper in and waited just, one day, yeah, got hosed. Now, did you really lose money? Well, I mean, if we look at a broader picture here, let's go back to this line chart. Let's go out, say, 10 years. And what you can see is that the prices still aren't terrible, right? Here's where we are right now. And so the last time, we've been below this in the last 10 years. We were at this back here. Let's see, what was this? This was May of 2021. And overall, we're up. So for those of us that have been scrapping for a while, well, we're up from where we were. Let's do this. I've actually been scrapping, I don't know, a little over 6 years, but really hardcore going into it. So here's 5 years, so it's still up. Certainly had much better times than where we're at right now, but still we're doing. Copper is generally, because it's such an important metal anyway, that there's going to be some pain and as it adjusts here, but then it should bounce back and head back up in the other direction as the markets absorb this change and rebuild from here. Let's see, what is the forecast that Trading Economics is showing right here? Will take copper back up to 488 in 12 months. Not great, not terrible. Remember that I did see some sources that were saying that copper could get as low as 3. So it's, of course, kind of early right now to fully understand what's going to happen with copper. It's just it was painful for a lot of folks. They didn't get the money that they thought they were going to get. In some cases, folks were probably banking on that money to help them pay some bills and things, and they didn't get as much as they thought they were going to get. So that's that's the bad news for what happened to us this week in the scrapping world. I'm going to leave this chart up, and I'm going to look at the comments on copper and see what everybody has had to say about copper. And I'm looking here. We got some back and forth going on. People saying hi to folks. D Scrapper's joined the house. Welcome, D Scrapper. Great to have you here. Ian brings up a real good point that if you got it for free, you didn't lose any money, you just didn't get as much. So that's a good point. Not everybody gets their stuff for free. I mean, I buy a lot of my material because, well, it's part of the business that I'm in. But there are a lot of hobby scrappers that get their stuff for free, and I get a bunch of stuff for free too. So it's an important point that Ian makes there. Uh, uh, JR Cat is saying they're keeping the environmental nasty part overseas. Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it. Mining and refining copper, is rough on the environment. You've got some, the processes are when you look at what's really involved, it's not real good. I mean, developed nations have come up with ways to make it less destructive on the environment. But, open pit mining is very destructive on the environment. The process of leaching material out of the ore is very destructive, very hard on the environment. So there's an interesting point that J.R. Cat makes with keeping the environmentally challenging parts overseas. And Chile and Peru are two of the places that their national economies are very big on minerals, and they actually will become countries that will benefit from the tariffs because it's not going to affect the material that they're sending into the U.S. Ian, I'm not exactly sure here what you mean by copper being 50p a kg, and that's 25 cents a pound. Okay. I'm glad you did the math for us there, man. Not that I have anything against the metric system, but I can't do the math in my head. Um, yeah, 25 cents a pound. But then again, Ian, I'm not. How much did you have to pay for the wooden nails back in the day, bud? Oh man. Richard said he's gonna keep stripping his copper. Yeah, if you don't need the money right away, then just keep stocking it up. Richard, as I recall from previous conversations, was going to be stockpiling it up anyway. So it just means he's going to be hanging on to it for a bit longer than he thought. So, that's no big deal. And of course, you all know that I always take the approach of when I do sell my copper, I always keep 10% of the good stuff, the Bear Bright and the number one copper behind to build up my strategic reserve. So, this plays into that strategy as well. That material will just wait a bit longer before anything happens to it. So, yeah, was that the wiring on the arc? There you go. That's a good one, JR Cat. Love it. Oh man. Let's see. So, HH Recycling is saying that he spoke to the commercial buyer at his yard, and he said that their head buyer isn't expecting any changes with scrap prices. It's interesting because I have had reports from folks who have reported that their prices dropped immediately. Folks have reported, it going down by up to 20 cents a pound in some cases. So, let's see. Mike is saying that silver took a big hit too. We'll look at silver next week, Mike. But it's good to know for folks to have that data point out there. And Roger is saying that he had to turn in 330 pounds of number two insulated to pay the rent, but he's holding about 600 Bear Bright. There you go, man. And that's the way when we're doing this as a business, like some of us are. Well, you have no choice. You got to sell, right? You got to make cash to pay the rent and the insurance and the vehicle registration and the gasoline and those kind of things. So, yeah, sometimes you don't get the money that you want to get for it, and sometimes it can hurt more than others. But it just keeps chugging along. So HH is saying that his prices haven't changed since May '02. Interesting. So May 2nd or May of 2002. Um, uh, so, a lot of times a yard will have, the big yards especially, they'll have contracts for material, and that can cause them to keep their prices May 2nd. Okay. Yeah. All right. May 2nd. So, as we know, we've discussed this before. A lot of scrap yards have contracts, and those contracts drive the prices more than the local market until those contracts come up for renegotiation. And so, for a lot of yards, the prices don't change because they have these contracts in place. In other cases, so for instance, my yard up here in the mountains, they don't change a lot because, well, they're already kind of low because they have a lot of transportation costs that they have to bake into all of their material. So they're not, I don't want to say the prices are terrible, but they're not fantastic. I'm probably always lower than most of you in what I get for shred and aluminum and copper and stuff. And it really comes down to, that's for them, they have to transport everything somewhere. And so they don't have to make a lot of adjustments in their prices because they've already kind of picked a level that works for them and that they don't want to mess with. Then again, there are other yards that will frequently adjust their prices because they're really on those margins, and they might change their prices once a week. So you got to know your yard and how quickly your yard makes these kind of changes. You got to keep up with that. Okay, well, great conversation on copper. Been a rough week for copper, which is also a rough ring to say. So hang in there, folks. Don't panic. It's not the end of the world. We'll get through it. I can't say that this particular tariff made a lot of sense to me the way it was implemented, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't see more changes come into place. We'll hang on and we'll ride this thing the way we're riding this bull the way it's playing right now. All right, so I have something that I need to discuss here. Changing gears, and let me do this real quick. Gotta do this. Last week I put up a video, and it had a big mistake. So I want to address that mistake. The video that I'm talking about was the hard drive boards. So these are the non-SATA hard drive boards. And in the video, and the part that I want to draw your attention to is right here, the return on investment. So in the video, you'll recall that I said that, my profit was, or I was making $141 an hour on this. But then I said, well, remember I did 10 of them, so I divided that number by 10, and I said I was really only making $14 an hour. Well, that's wrong. That math is wrong. And it was one of those things where I'm editing the video and I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, something doesn't sound right. I'm just, what's wrong here? And it's like in the back of my mind, I knew that something was wrong, but I couldn't see the mistake. And fortunately, I had one of the viewers came up and left a comment for me, and he said, I'm confused by your math. And that caused me to, it's like all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, I know what I did wrong. So the The return on investment, the base calculation is correct. The profit there is $141.10 an hour. And just dividing that by 10 was not the thing that should have happened. In order to check that calculation, what I did was I went back in here and I did a value per hour check. And I went up here and I said, all right, so what I should do is I should take the gain or loss per hard drive, which is 66 cents, divided by the time that the average time for each hard drive, which would be 0.047 divided by 10 because there were 10 hard drives, or 0.0047. And when you do that, you get the same number. So, it proves that even Geek Shark will make mistakes sometimes. So I'm not going to take the video down because if I do that, then all of the watch time and comments disappear. But I did want to point out the mistake that I made here. And a lot of folks have asked me to take a look at the numbers for the hard drives with SATA boards. And I have already posted that video. I have it queued up for next week. So I have to go back and redo that video and fix my math error. So I really wanted to point that error out to everybody because I don't want bad math out there. I don't want to be putting mistakes out there and then just trying to walk away from it. It's like, no, it's a mistake. I own it. So I want to try to fix it the best I can here. So the bottom line is that it is worth for the hard drives with the IDE pins or the non-SATA boards, at least here in the United States, if you can afford to ship the boards to boardsort.com, or if you have another good reputable buyer, it's worth the time to remove those high-grade boards and then sell the hard drives as hard drives with no boards, and then sell the boards as the higher grade boards. Now, and this is where, it's kind of important who your buyer is, right? Boardsort.com is a very sophisticated e-scrap buyer. They have a lot of categories of e-scrap. There are many yards out there that only have high, medium, and low grade boards. In some cases, they only have one category, boards, and so you really need to know what your buyer and how they buy stuff. Plus, you need to know your shipping charges. Here in the United States, if you can afford to do less than truckload shipping, then you can really get your shipping costs down. You can ship 1,000-pound loads, and you're down in the 40 cents a pound range or less. Sometimes 30. Whereas if you're shipping via the U.S. Postal Service or UPS or FedEx, you can easily be in the 75 cents to $1 a pound range. So you also need to know your shipping charges and how that's going to impact you. All right, so now that we covered that little mistake, the other thing that I want to real quick talk about before we head over to Ireland is something that you all may have heard discussed about YouTube making adding a new thing called AI age determination. So here's what's going on. They've kind of been doing this anyway, so it's not like this is a huge thing, but they're rolling out some tests, and we're going to see this more here in the United States. They're using the AI in their algorithm to try to determine what a viewer's age is if they are under 18. That's what it is. Are they under 18 or are they over 18? And then they will make some changes to what content is put before underage viewers. Now, there are some people that are just going nuts about this. they're going crazy. They're saying, "Oh my God, the algorithm is going to decide how old I am, and this is going to kill my channel." And as a viewer, I don't want the AI telling me what I can and cannot look at. I think for just about every single one of us, we've been on YouTube long enough that YouTube knows how old we are. Some of you may have YouTube Premium, so you're not watching ads. Some of you may have a credit card on file with YouTube so that you can do super chats and things of that nature. So, what you're going to you won't see any difference whatsoever because YouTube already knows your age. What YouTube is trying to do though is they're trying to be more responsible when it comes to the material that is being shown to underage children, which here in the United States under 18. Um, so don't panic. Don't get upset about it. It's probably not going to affect any of us one way or another, truth be told. They YouTube built in a process where if it does decide that you're under 18 and you're really not under 18, you can still go back to them and provide proof of age so that you can, get the adult content. It's not really adult content, but it's content that is approved for older viewers. I applaud YouTube for doing what they can to help protect younger viewers, and I think I wish more social media companies would do more to protect younger viewers from from some of the junk and just bad stuff that goes on in social media. I applaud YouTube doing what they're trying to do. And as far as we're concerned, look, like I said, all of us, I'm pretty sure we've all been on YouTube long enough that the algorithm knows we're a bunch of geezers. So I wouldn't worry about it. Of course, I know not all of you are as old as some of us, and none of us is as old as Ian. So it's not that big a deal. But when you hear people talk about it, don't get all upset. It's not going to be a thing for us. All right. Well, it is time to get across the pond and uh, head on over to Ireland. So if you have autoplay enabled, when I end this stream here in just a minute, you will be automatically redirected over to Ireland to join us on Scrapping Irish's channel. If you do not have autoplay enabled, then please go into YouTube, go up to that little search thing, type in Scrapping Irish, and join us over in Scrapping Irish's live stream. Always a lot of fun. We never know which way the questions are going to go. And even though we do get some of the usuals up in the panel, every now and then Irish brings up some new folks. It's always fun, and I look forward to seeing you over there. If I don't see you in Ireland, have a great week. Please stay safe and check your online security.